Okay, so get this right. They send me this research paper, Autonomous Navigation in Ports. And I'm like, whoa, hold on. This is like straight up sci-fi stuff. We're talking ships that dock themselves, robots moving cargo, AI running the whole show. I mean, come on, how cool is that?
Yeah, no doubt. It's pretty wild.
But also, how realistic is all this? Like, are we really on the verge of seeing ports turn into, robot cities? I figure that's what we got to figure out today, right? So we're doing a deep dive on this paper, break it down, see what's what, the tech, how they're using it, and what it all means for, well, anyone who ships anything, basically.
Right. Well, I think it's important to remember that this isn't like, boom, out of nowhere,
Right, not true.
This autonomous navigation stuff, it's built on like decades of work.
Yeah.
Think GPS, all those super accurate positioning systems.
Right, we've had GPS for a while, but this is
Yeah.
this is taking it to a whole other level. And what I'm really curious about is the AI part. Like that's got to be the key, right? The artificial intelligence, the machine learning.
Absolutely. That's where the thinking happens, so to speak. These algorithms, they're the brains of the operation. They're
Wow.
taking in mountains of data, constantly analyzing it, making decisions in real time. It's incredible.
So, okay, hold on. It's taking in data. How's it doing that? Is it like watching the port?
Well, it's more like it have all these senses, right? We're
Huh.
talking radar, lidar, sonar, cameras, all feeding info into the system. They call it sensor fusion, which I guess is a fancy way of saying it's got like superhuman perception.
Oh, I see. So it's getting a full picture from all these different angles, and then the AI, it's like making sense of it all.
Exactly. And here's another thing, a really important tool they're using. Digital twins.
Digital twins. Okay, now you're just messing with me.
No, seriously. Imagine a perfect virtual copy of the entire port. Everything's there. The ships, the cranes, the buildings, even the weather.
Okay, I kind of see where you're going with
It's like
this.
a giant simulator. You can test out scenarios, run simulations, see how things play out before you do anything in the real world.
Wow, so it's like a video game for port managers, except the stakes are a little higher than, losing a few virtual lives.
Exactly. It's all about optimizing the port, making it run as smoothly and safely as possible.
Okay, now that's smart. So we've got the ships kind of seeing and thinking with this AI and sensor stuff, and then the port managers using their digital twin to run the whole show. But where's all this actually happening? What are the, main areas where they're using this tech in ports right now?
One of the big ones, and this is the one that kind of blows my mind, is smart vessel docking.
Smart. Wait, so you're saying the ships can, park themselves?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Using all those sensors and the AI, they can maneuver into the dock with, like, pinpoint accuracy.
I mean, come on. That seems almost impossible. And how does that even work?
The systems are designed to account for things like wind, currents, the ship's own size and weight, all in real time.
So it's not just like following a pre-programmed route.
Nope, it's constantly adjusting, making tiny corrections as it goes.
Wow. Okay, that's impressive. What else?
Well, it's not just the ships themselves. They're also automating cargo handling. Think robotic cranes, autonomous vehicles moving containers around.
Wait, so they're automating the whole process from the ship to the, warehouse?
Yep. It's all about speed and efficiency, reducing the risk of accidents, and making sure the whole operation runs smoothly.
Okay, so that's the ship, the cargo. I guess the next step is figuring out how all this fits together, right? Like traffic management.
You got it. AI is being used to optimize traffic flow within the port, minimizing congestion, preventing collisions, even reducing emissions.
So it's like a giant, super smart air traffic control system, but for ships.
Pretty much, yeah. It's all about keeping things moving smoothly and efficiently.
Okay, this is all pretty mind-blowing, but there's one thing I'm not getting. What about all the stuff that happens underwater? Like dredging, maintenance. How do they automate that?
Oh, they're working on that too. Think autonomous underwater vehicles, doing surveys, mapping the seabed, identifying areas that need dredging. Then they can either do the dredging themselves or, guide the human-operated dredgers.
So, seriously, they're automating everything.
Hmm.
Okay, so we've talked about the tech, how it works, and where they're using it. But now I gotta ask the obvious question, right? What's the point of all this? Like, what are the real-world benefits of having robot ports?
There are a lot of potential benefits, actually, and they're pretty big.
Okay, lay it on me. Why should we care about robot ports?
Well, first and foremost, it's about safety.
Safety, right. Ports are busy places, lots of big machinery, potential for accidents.
Exactly. And by taking humans out of the equation, at least for some of the more dangerous tasks, you significantly reduce the risk of accidents.
Right, because robots don't get tired, they don't get distracted, they just follow the program.
Exactly. and they can react much faster than humans in a lot of situations.
Uh-huh.
But safety is just the beginning. It's also about efficiency.
Okay, efficiency. That makes sense. Ports are all about moving stuff around quickly, right?
Right. And with automation, you can optimize every aspect of the operation. Faster loading and unloading times, better use of space, reduce congestion. It all adds up.
So we're talking like less time in port, which means lower costs, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's not just about saving money. It's also about environmental sustainability.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one these days. How does automation help with that?
Well, increased efficiency means less fuel consumption, fewer emissions. Plus, you can design these systems to be more eco-friendly from the ground up.
Okay, so we've got safety, efficiency, sustainability, anything else?
Well, yeah, there's also the potential for cost savings in the long run.
Right, because even though the tech is expensive up front, you're saving on labor, fuel, and all those delays.
Exactly. It's an investment, but it could pay off big time.
So we're talking about safer, faster, cleaner, and potentially even cheaper ports? It almost sounds too good to be true. But I know it's not all smooth sailing, right? There must be some downsides to all this.
Oh, yeah. There are definitely some challenges and potential downsides. Things we need to think about carefully.
Okay, so let's get real. What are the big hurdles they got to overcome with this whole autonomous port thing?
Well, one of the biggest is, actually getting all this tech into existing ports.
Right, because most ports weren't built with robots in mind.
Exactly. This huge integration challenge. Retrofitting all this old infrastructure can be incredibly complex and expensive.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. But okay, let's say they figure out the integration. What else is there?
Well, then there's the whole issue of cybersecurity.
Ooh, yeah, that's a big one these days.
These systems are reliant on data, connectivity,
Hmm.
that makes them vulnerable to attacks. And a successful cyber attack on a port, well, that could be disastrous.
No kidding. It could shut down the whole operation.
Exactly. So cybersecurity is a huge concern. They need to make sure these systems are incredibly secure.
Okay, so integration, cybersecurity, anything else?
Well, there's also the lack of, clear international regulations.
Oh, yeah, that's got to be a mess. Every port doing its own thing.
Right. It's a bit of a Wild West out there. And without clear standards, it's going to be really hard to make sure everything works smoothly and safely.
So we need some kind of like global agreement on how this stuff should work.
Exactly. We need standards for communication, for safety protocols, for everything.
Okay, makes sense. So integration, cybersecurity, regulations, but there's one more big elephant in the room, right? Jobs.
Yeah, that's a big one. And it's a tough one.
Because if robots are doing all the work, what happens to the people?
Right. And that's a question we need to think about very carefully. Because automation will definitely lead to some job displacement.
So it's not just about robots taking over?
No, it's more complex than that. It's about a shift in the types of jobs that are needed.
So we'll need different skills, like people who can design and maintain these robots.
Exactly. We'll need engineers, programmers, data analysts, cybersecurity experts.
Yeah. So it's not just about losing jobs, it's about retraining people for the new roles that are being created.
Exactly. It's about adapting, evolving along with the technology.
So, okay, we've got these challenges, some big questions about the future of work. But with all that said, what does the future actually hold for autonomous navigation in ports? Like, is this robot port thing actually going to happen?
I think it is, yeah. But it's not going to happen overnight.
Right. It's a process.
And it's going to take a lot of work, a lot of collaboration to make it happen.
Okay, so what needs to happen? What are the key steps to making this vision of a fully autonomous port a reality?
Well, like we said, the first step is getting everyone on the same page. We need global standards, clear regulations, so that everyone's playing by the same rules.
Right, so no more Wild West.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then we need to keep pushing the boundaries of the technology itself.
So more research and development.
Yep. We need even better AI, more robust cybersecurity, more sophisticated digital twins.
So it's not just about using the tech we have now, it's about constantly improving it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's about making sure that this technology benefits everyone, not just a select few.
So collaboration's key, like industry, governments, researchers, all working together.
Absolutely. It's a big challenge, but I think it's one we can overcome.
This has been, honestly, a really fascinating conversation. We've gone from like, whoa, robot ports, to a much deeper understanding of the tech, the challenges, the potential. But I'm curious, can we get even more specific? Like, what would it actually be like to experience a fully autonomous port firsthand?
Well, imagine yourself standing on a pier overlooking a bustling port. But instead of that usual, hustle and bustle and the noise, it's, well, it's almost eerily quiet. You see these ships moving, gliding into their berths. But it's so smooth, so precise, like they're being guided by some invisible hand.
Okay, yeah, I gotta admit, that's kind of hard to picture. I mean, without someone at the wheel, how do they actually pull that off?
Well, remember all that sensor fusion, the AI we were talking about earlier?
Yeah.
That's the key. Every ship is constantly talking to the port's traffic management system. They're getting instructions, adjusting course in real time, all based on the data from those sensors.
So it's like a giant coordinated dance, right?
Exactly. And what's really cool? As the ship gets close to the dock, its own onboard systems take over. Lasers, sensors, all working together to make sure it lines up perfectly.
So no more tugboats, no more guys on the dock yelling and waving their arms.
Nope, it's all automated. Smooth, silent, and incredibly efficient.
It's kind of freaky, but I gotta admit, it's impressive.
It is. And then, once the ship's docked, the action really starts. You've got those automated cranes, the ones with the super advanced vision systems. They swing into action. They can spot a container, pick it up, move it, all without a human in sight.
And I bet those robotic arms we talked about, they're part of the picture too, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Huh?
Loading and unloading containers onto those autonomous trucks.
And the trucks, they just like zip around the port on their own.
Yep. Following their pre-programmed routes, all optimized for efficiency, avoiding any traffic jams. It's really something to see.
It sounds like this whole operation is like perfectly choreographed.
That's a great way to put it. And here's the best part. Because everything's connected, the port operators can see everything that's happening in real time. They can track cargo, monitor the equipment, even spot potential problems before they happen.
Wow, it's like a command center for the entire port.
Exactly. And that level of control, it means incredible efficiency. Ships are in and out faster, cargo moves more quickly, and everyone's using resources way more effectively.
Okay, so lower costs, less waste. That all makes sense. But I keep coming back to the human element. With all this automation, where do the people fit in?
Well, like I said before, it's not about robots taking over completely. We still need human expertise, but the focus shifts.
So less hands-on work, more oversight, planning, that kind of thing.
Exactly. We're talking skilled engineers to design and maintain these complex systems, data analysts to make sense of all the information the port's generating, cybersecurity experts to keep everything safe from hackers.
So it's a change, but not necessarily a bad one.
Right. It's about adaptation, learning new skills, working alongside the technology.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've gone from the basic idea of autonomous navigation to this really vivid picture of what a fully automated port could look like. We've talked about the benefits, the challenges, but there's always that question lurking in the back of my mind. What about the stuff we haven't even thought of? The unforeseen consequences.
Yeah, that's the tricky part. It's hard to predict how all this will play out in the long run.
I mean, this is a huge technological shift, right? There are bound to be ripple effects we can't even imagine yet.
Exactly. And it's something we need to be mindful of as we move forward.
So, listener name, we've given you a lot to chew on today. This whole autonomous navigation thing, it's more than just robots and ships. It's about technology, economics, sustainability, even the future of work.
It's about how we shape the future of global trade.
And as this technology keeps evolving, we need to keep asking the tough questions. What are the trade-offs? What are the potential downsides? How do we make sure everyone benefits from these advancements?
We need to be having these conversations now while we still have time to steer things in the right direction.
Well said. This has been a really incredible deep dive, and I know I've learned a ton, but I'm curious, what about you? What are some of the things that surprised you as we were researching this topic?
One thing that really stood out to me was, one thing that really struck me was the potential impact on global trade. We tend to think of ports as these, fixed locations, but if they become way more efficient, it could completely change how goods flow around the world.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Like suddenly some ports become way more attractive than others. Maybe new trade routes pop up.
Exactly. It could shift the whole balance of power in the shipping industry. And then, of course, there's the environmental side of things.
Yeah, we talked about the potential benefits, less fuel use, all that, but you're saying there could be downsides too.
Well, it's all about the bigger picture, right? Like, yeah, the ships might be more efficient, but what about the energy needed to build all these robots, the AI systems, the infrastructure?
Right, there's a whole life cycle to consider. And what about the people side of things? I mean, we talked about the shift in jobs, but could it be even more complicated than that?
It might be. I mean, you got to wonder, if some ports become super high tech while others get left behind, Does that just widen the gap between rich and poor countries?
It's like the tech itself might not be the problem, it's how we use it, how we manage the transition.
Exactly. We need to make sure this whole autonomous port thing benefits everyone, not just a select few.
Well said. This has been a wild ride, this deep dive. We started with a research paper, and we ended up talking about, like, the future of global trade, the environment, the whole shebang.
It's amazing how these things connect, isn't it?
It really is. So, listener name, what do you think? Are you ready for a world of robot ports? Because it's coming. Whether we like it or not, this tech is going to change everything. How we ship goods, where we ship them, even the kinds of jobs we have. But like we've been saying, it's not just about the tech itself. It's about how we use it, the choices we make. And that's where you come in. Because this is a conversation we all need to be having. What kind of future do we want? What role do we want technology to play? These are big questions and there are no easy answers. But hopefully this deep dive has given you some food for thought, some new perspectives on the future of ports, and maybe even the future of our world. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.